This has been the kind of day where I just can't seem to get the wheels turning. And for that, you have to have Ren and Stimpy and Log, the greatest toy ever made. In any case, man, I loved Ren and Stimpy growing up. That cartoon was just the bomb. Do people still say the bomb? Oh, well, it's not like I'm up on hip trends anyway. Well, anyhow, I'm not going to lie. I got a little lost with this assignment. And what's ended up happening is I focused too much on the passive verbs and not enough on the actual content of the assignment itself. And that's, that just did not work out very well. Well, the good news is I think we should be in a space where we can really start to cut down those passive verbs, right? As we go into the paper, I want you guys also, and this is something I'm going to write up in the rubric that I'm going to design today for the Dropbox. I want you to go for very full developed paragraphs for about 10 sentences each. Now, again, I'm not going to hit you over the head with that if it doesn't quite hit 10 sentences, but I want you to try to get as close to that as you can. I'm thinking for these 10 sentence paragraphs that you're going to use in this paper, I want no more than 3 passive verbs, as much as you possibly can in every paragraph. Now, I have another assignment idea that's going to integrate a little bit with the passive verbs, as we also will share a draft of what it is we're doing, but I'll get to that in a little bit. The main thing I want to focus on today is just getting kind of this outline of the assignment together so that you guys have a little bit more of a better idea of what it is I'm expecting of you. For this eco-narrative, I want 4 double-spaced pages, which comes out to, I believe, 1,000 words. Yeah, 1,000 words. If you want to put that through your word count in your word processor, that'll kind of help you get an idea a little bit more of what it is I'm looking for. So 1,000 words of material. You're supposed to go to a place and describe your experience visiting that place. I think I originally asked for some notes, but notes are not going to translate very well to the online environment. So, and I tell you what else is not going to translate very well either. And every time you try something new, you run the risk of it blowing up in your face. This time, I kind of think it blew up in my face. So I'm going to back off a little bit here. Because I talked to the librarian the other day, and he was like, "What are you doing?" He was like, what? He wasn't really prepared to give all this information about all these spaces and all these historical locations, right? So I kind of blindsided the ever-living tar out of him with that. So for this paper, what I would like for you to do is to find one source about your location. And this can actually be very, very loose, right? This does not necessarily have to be an article or a book or anything like that. I've got one student in my face-to-face 1010 class that actually is talking to her family members about prior people who lived in that location and what their history was. That works. I got one guy who's writing about Skyrim, the video game, and he's actually looking up articles about Skyrim itself, right? So that works. Any historical marker, what I would say is we'll count this as a source. If you go to the place, and this might be one of the easiest ways to satisfy this requirement, because I realize now just how misguided this was. Go to the place and take pictures. If you take pictures and you discuss those pictures in your writing and you play off of them, one, it can help your writing to do that because then you've got something to talk about. 2, we'll count that as a source. I really, really messed this up, right? So, and if we, I don't necessarily even want us worrying about how to cite this stuff yet, because again, I got way too ahead of myself here. So pictures, past accounts from people who have experiences with the area, a picture of a historical marker, all those count as sources, right? So I think that's kind of a little bit more of a fun way to integrate sources that's not necessarily so, right? So in any case, that's how we can rectify all of that. So I've simplified this requirement a great deal. Mainly, I really just want you guys to exercise writing in a way that is descriptive, that brings me to the place so that I can experience it as well. I think for me, and I'm going to wax a little philosophical here. Brunswick and any community in America is a place that has a rich history. Now, sometimes that history is a little bit inaccessible to us because, according to like the idea of eco-narrative, as a place becomes abandoned, the stories that people bring to it have become lost. They have become themselves very inaccessible, right? So what ends up happening is we exist in our communities and we aren't really aware of the stuff that's around us, right? There's a lot of things that we pass by every day that we just don't ever really even pay any attention to. There's an app, and I'm a little hesitant to give you this app's name. It's called Randonautica. And the reason I'm hesitant is because a whole bunch of people have reported seemingly paranormal experiences with this app. It gives you like a random place to go near you, but anyway, if you want to look up that nightmare, you can. But Randonautica is supposed to be a thing that brings you to places you would never otherwise visit, and to have kind of like an experience that you would otherwise have never had. That kind of thing would work really well for this as well. If you were to whip up Randonautica, if you're feeling brave and you aren't afraid of the paranormal, that would be kind of interesting as well. But the idea of experiencing our environment and at least trying to access the things that went on there and the history that's just alive all around us. A lot of people live their entire lives very, very sheltered, right? And this is something that happens a great deal in modern society, and the fact that we are all so unbelievably tied into our tech. So many of us waste just gigantic portions of our lives just in a virtual environment as opposed to an actual one. Now, I know this kind of goes against, I got somebody writing about Skyrim. This isn't necessarily to say that virtual environments themselves are not valuable. They can be fun, right? I am planning on dumping hours and hours of my time this weekend into a game called Torchlight. I flipping love Torchlight. So I'm not looking down on virtual environments, but I think we have to be really careful to teach a relationship with our actual surroundings that kind of wake us up. Like, I used to be really big into taking my lunch to a local cemetery. And when I tell people that, they're like, what's wrong with you? Well, I read a study, and this is kind of an example of how you could tie an article in with an eco-narrative type thing. I read a study about visiting cemeteries. And apparently people who frequent cemeteries, people who actually make a point to go to a cemetery on a semi-regular basis, actually lead longer, healthier lives, and they report a better sense of mental well-being, which kind of goes against what you would expect. For the most part, people who go to cemeteries, we think of them as kind of being morbid, fascinated with death. You would think that they'd be depressed, but in actuality, the opposite is true. Reminding yourself of the reality of death and surrounding yourself with that reality actually has a tendency to make your food taste better, because you realize you only got so many meals left, right? You're aware of death rather than just avoiding it. And that kind of just gives you a little bit more of an appreciation for the life that you are leading right now, and the fact that it's pretty much the only one you have, right? Now, so the whole thing that I was trying to do here was I was trying to wake up a sense of place within you guys. Having a connection to the community and having a kind of experience with it. Well, it's valuable. It's valuable for your mental well-being, and it's valuable for the community itself. The more that we isolate ourselves and the less that we participate in the community that surrounds us, that kind of causes the community, the city, the town, it causes it to kind of shrivel up and die, right? Because we're not out, we're not doing things, we're not invested in and participating in our community, in the place where we live. So in any case, to wrap this really weird lecture up, here's the thing. When I asked you for a source, that can still include things like articles, personal anecdotes, But because of how weird this little endeavor has been, I'm also going to say go to a place and take a picture. That's a source too. Okay. That's an artifact that you created in your experience with this environment. Now, here's what I actually want you to do in response to this video. You guys have gone in and exercised a little bit with these passive verbs. I want you to start writing your draft of the eco narrative. Let's shoot for about a page, right? So about a page of material. And when you get finished, I want you to go ahead and post a draft into the eco narrative discussion board. And what we're going to do is for those drafts, we're going to go in and we're going to try to catch each other using passive verbs. And we're going to do that on Tuesday. Or no, well, I'll post that video on Monday. And that's one of the ways that you guys are going to try to help each other cut down these passive verbs. So all you have to worry about right now is posting a small draft of your eco narrative. It does not have to be good. It is a draft, right? Now, I am going to grade this one a little bit more harshly because I have to kind of like, dial up the difficulty as we move forward. So in any case, yeah, I think that's all I have for today. This has been a confusing assignment, and I am going to keep in mind when I grade it. But the thing I am going to be looking for is the descriptive language, bringing the location you visited to life, and I'm really going to be looking at these passive verbs. So for today, even through the weekend, give me a page. The whole assignment's due Thursday, but I want a page in the discussion forum by Monday so that we can go and write up some responses to each other and maybe help each other fix some of the passive verbs that we're using. So don't worry necessarily about eliminating those passive verbs yet. If they creep up in your writing, you'll actually be doing other people a favor because they'll be able to find them easier, right? So don't necessarily worry too much about that with this particular draft because we are going to respond to each other in these drafts, and I'll outline that more for you on Monday. Anyway, thank you so much for bearing with me through this incredibly weird YouTube lecture. Hey, I'm not perfect either, all right? I yelled at a kid at a skate park the other day because he said he hated professional wrestling. So, I mean, I'm wearing a Ren and Stimpy t-shirt, right? I make mistakes too. Oh, shut up. I love this shirt. Anyway, sorry for the confusion, and let's get through this assignment. I want to grade more. No, I don't. Have a good day, guys. That went a little better than I thought.